As we all have a debate over what a recession is, this market is poised for its biggest monthly gain since November 2020. Futures positive this morning. Good morning, good morning. The countdown to the open starts right now. Mohammed, let's just start with this ridiculous, tedious recession debate. What's your take on it?
I think the risk is high. It is not preordained. There are things that can still be done to stop us slipping into recession. But I think the two key questions, John, that we're going to be talking a lot about in the next few months is if we end up in a recession, how shallow or how deep is that recession? And secondly, how sticky is inflation on its way down? And I'm yet to hear any compelling argument that says we know where we're going in terms of growth and we know where we're going in terms of inflation. I think there's a lot of uncertainty ahead.
Mohammed El-Erian's fears are real, guys. Article from Bloomberg. Investors are in a gambling mode. When it comes to the Federal Reserve, that's the conclusion one could reach after listening to the veteran strategist, Bloomberg opinion columnist Mohammed El-Erian and Pacific Investment Management Co. Anthony Crescenzi explains market rallies in a week where the Feds raised overnight lending rates and the U.S. economy signaled a recession. After two consecutive negative GDP reports, the S&P 500 is on track for its best month since November 2020. And the Bloomberg Treasury Index could close July with the biggest gains since the start of the pandemic. Bond market investors are entertaining the idea that the Fed can't go far in raising rates further to stem the fastest inflation in decades. El-Erian, who said more than a year ago that the Fed was behind the curve in battling inflation, is weary. The market is looking for a pivot at the time when the only reason would get it is that the economy will collapse. El-Erian said, and if that happens, equities may not be able to withstand that. This shows you how much uncertainty this is. I think the market has come to the conclusion what it wants before the Feds get there. Let's see what he means and listen in to his conversation. Editor, roll clip, fair use.
Okay, Mohammed, try to put together what we're just seeing now in immediate terms with what we heard from Jay Powell yesterday and what you think he now may or may not do as we look forward to the fall.
Thank you, Andrew. So in terms of what we're seeing in the data, whether it is the GDP number, whether it is the jobless claims number, this is an economy that's weakening at a much faster rate than most people expected. That's the bottom line. Whether we're in a recession or not is not as interesting as the fact that we are weakening really fast. In terms of what does it mean? Well, there were two FOMC messages yesterday. There was a scripted message, which was that inflation is much too high, that yes, the economy is weakening, but don't worry about it because the labor market is incredibly tight and we're going to continue tightening. And then there was that unscripted but consequential comment that we are at neutral. So depending on which FOMC message you look at, you get very different conclusions with today's data. I think the bottom line, Andrew, is we're not out of the stagflationary forces yet.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Tom Nash, and on the screen right now you have a clip I'm about to play you by Mohammed El-Erian, and he just said the Fed should keep focused on inflation even with the economy weakening really fast. Now, it sounds like a boring economic discussion, but trust me, this is critical stuff. This is literally do or die for the economy, and the choice he's talking about is not trivial. In fact, making the wrong choice is literally going to be like cutting the wrong wire in one of the MacGyver movies. It can lead to a disaster. So I'm going to actually take what he said here and strip away all this corporate talk and caveats and being careful. I'm going to tell you exactly what he means, because what he just said is mind-blowingly important. So first of all, let's play the clip and then I'll tell you what I think he meant.
Which does it choose?
So I think we are back in that world where every number is going to matter. And there's quite a few numbers before the Fed meets again in September. What's the Fed going to choose? I hope it focuses on getting the inflation genie back into the bottle. Look, I think the worst outcome is that next year we are in recession and inflation has proven very sticky. That is the worst outcome. So I don't think the Fed can take its eye off the ball right now in terms of bringing inflation down. Otherwise, it's going to be a double whammy that's going to be very difficult to get out of.
Okay, so beyond the Jerome Powell criticism, I want to explain to you what he said here. Now, we had two consecutive quarters of negative GDP. Negative 1.6 in the first quarter, negative 0.9 in the second quarter. Now, we can debate about whether this is a recession, a technical recession, a real recession. It does not matter. Now, look, what matters here is that by definition, we're looking at a slowdown in the economy. Whether you want to call it a recession or a slowdown is absolutely irrelevant. It's an academic discussion I have zero interest in engaging in. Now, if we have a slowdown in the economy, it's definitely coming from inflation. We know it. We've seen it. Look at the Target financials. Look at the Walmart financials. The Walmart financials are literally right here and here, basically telling you the same thing. Look, people are spending less money on things they absolutely do not want to have as far as a necessity, right? They need gasoline, they need shelter, they need food. Everything else is not a priority. So basically, Walmart is saying the same thing Target was saying in their financials. Hey, we're going to make shit cheaper. Apparel, electronics are going to be much, much cheaper because otherwise we go out of business. That means our margins are going to go down. That means people will lose their jobs. That means those people will have less money to spend. And it's going to be a snowball effect of basically putting the economy into recession, also collapsing the job market. Now, look, the reason I'm telling you this is because what El-Erian is actually alluding to is that people might use this argument to say, well, look, Tom, or Mohammed in this case, natural decline of the economy due to inflation, which is what we're seeing right now, is going to kill demand. And that is why we absolutely do not have to increase rates and suck the money out of the market. We can just let the recession that's going to happen because inflation is going to hurt the economy, kill demand for us, and just basically sit tight, wait for this to happen, and then problem solved, right? Wrong. This is exactly what Mohammed El-Erian is saying, and I 100% agree with him. It's just he has to be a little bit in corpo talk land. I can actually speak more freely, but this is exactly what he's saying. We absolutely cannot depend on this natural cannibalization of inflation by a recessionary market. It's not going to be enough. Now, we absolutely have to have money sucked out of the system, which means quantitative tightening. And also, I mean, look, he's saying here, and I'm going to say it again, look, interest rates are nowhere near neutral. I think he said it in a different clip. More interest rate hikes is absolutely a must because we're not even close to even neutral, not even talking about offensive. So more hikes, more aggressive approach, even with the economy seemingly putting itself into recession. Now look, what he's saying here, the end clip, listen to the end. The end was super important. He actually said something that should be a major warning to everybody. He said, look, guys, if we do not hit it hard right now, what we're going to end up with is basically a market with massive amount of inflation and a recession. At least let's kill inflation right now before we end up in a stagflationary market. Basically, the job market will be destroyed, recession is going to be rampant, and inflation is going to be high. We're going to go back to the 70s. At least let's make hard decisions right now before it's too late, before the decision-making option is taken away from us. And I 100% agree with him. I think the Fed has to be aggressive despite this slowdown in the economy. And in this case, you can look at all the retail investors right now. They're all looking at the same thing. All these providers like Target, like Walmart, which we covered, they're all talking about the same pain. People aren't spending as much. But if you look at what Mohammed El-Erian is saying, that's not going to be enough to stop inflation. The Fed cannot sit on the fence and just hope that the problem takes care of itself.
Now, I want you to know this because this is very important. Jerome Powell, the leader of the Federal Reserve, he screwed up. He screwed up bad. He knows it, he admitted it, but I don't know if "I'm sorry" cuts it. If you raise interest rates, it slows down the economy. So you're supposed to raise interest rates when the economy is booming, when the economy is doing great. Powell, he should have raised interest rates and stopped the money printing in 2021 because GDP growth last year was 5.7%. That's the fastest growth rate in 38 years. So that's what should have happened. Instead, as the economy was growing in 2021, the Federal Reserve, they kept interest rates at zero and they kept printing money. This caused inflation. Right now, the economy is struggling. We're in a recession. And we're raising interest rates and we're tightening in the middle of a recession. If you intentionally slow down the economy in the middle of a recession, that's like turning on your AC in the middle of winter. That's like turning on your heat in the middle of summer. It's a bad idea.
And sun and all feels hot.
Really? I'm guessing you don't have much experience with heat.
Nope.
Hey guys, it's Jose, your regular Joe Blow again, keeping an eye out and my ears open to the market and the warning signs to better prepare us. We are in a bad situation, and if the feds don't get this under control, forget about the recession. We will go directly into a depression. God help us. It's in your hands. Guys, do your own research and act in better preparing for the best outcome. As always, I'll continue to bring the news in a way we can all understand for us to continue growing and moving forward. And stay blessed, guys. That's my goal. Everyone, thank you for the support. And always, stay free.